An explosive new claim about the death of Jeffrey Epstein. This one from former New York City Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Michael Baden. Epstein's brother had hired Dr. Baden to observe the autopsy.
I think that the evidence points toward homicide rather than suicide.
Why?
Because there are multiple 3 fractures in the hyoid bone, the thyroid cartilage, that are very unusual for suicide and more indicative of strangulation, homicidal strangulation. Hanging does not cause these broken bones, and homicide does.
Dr. Baden, of course, has investigated high-profile cases like JFK and O.J. Simpson. I'm joined by Philip Holloway, a former assistant district attorney and police officer, Cameron Lindsay, a former warden at 5 correctional facilities, and Dr. Cyril Wecht, a former pathologist and attorney. Cyril, could we start with you, please? Because if I could just read the New York City medical examiner who put out this statement today in response to Dr. Baden. Our investigation concluded that the cause of Mr. Epstein's death was hanging and the manner of death was suicide. We stand by that determination. The original medical investigation was thorough and complete. There is no reason for a second medical investigation by our office. You have so much experience in this area. What do you think, Cyril?
I disagree with that statement from the Chief Medical Examiner of New York, who is a very highly experienced and highly regarded forensic pathologist. However, I should point out that Dr. Sampson was not present at the autopsy. She never saw the body when the autopsy was performed at her office. So she is dealing with things as she came to understand them later on. As a matter of fact, the pathologist who did the autopsy signed it out on that Sunday as pending. I strongly agree with Dr. Baden, who says that there is a fracture of the hyoid bone. I have received the autopsy report and I have reviewed it. That fracture, along with bilateral fractures of the thyroid cartilage, the Adam's apple. I do not recall a suicidal hanging in which you have these kinds of fractures. And there is no evidence at all to suggest that Mr. Epstein leaped from the top bunk. As I understand it, the top bunk was covered with toilet articles and various other personal items, nothing to suggest that he leaped from there. So there is no kind of force or velocity that would have developed as a result of some kind of leaping. No. And then when you correlate this with so many other things, the fact that he was in prison with somebody who's been charged with 4 murders, that suicide watch, which they removed, that the cameras weren't working, all that together, incredible.
Okay, so Cameron, if I could have you listen to Dr. Baden on those very issues, on the security problems as he saw it. Take a listen.
Extremely unlikely. I've never seen it in 50 years investigating all deaths that occur in prisons in New York State. Never had 2 guards fall asleep at the same time. All the video doesn't work. And the issue would be, did somebody come in and cause his death?
You've worked at federal facilities. What do you make of that?
Well, frankly, I haven't heard anything unequivocal in terms of determining whether Epstein was actually murdered or not. I understand that the feelings of both doctors. I have great respect for their opinions. I think it's important for us to make sure that we wait until we see what has been generated by the investigations of the Office of the Inspector General, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and of course the Federal Bureau of Prisons will be doing an after-action report as well. I remain unconvinced that he was murdered. I would need to know more about these aforementioned investigations to make a more determined.
Philip Holloway, let's get your legal advisor hat on. Put your hat on for us and tell us what you think legally, and why does it matter in this case? Why would Epstein's brother want this other determination?
Well, Dana, conspiracy theories are always more fun to think about and to go back and dissect. And I, too, have great respect for Dr. Baden and his opinions. But as Dr. Wecht, I'm sure, would agree, when you have a contest of an issue such as cause and manner of death, it is not at all uncommon for doctors to disagree on cause and manner of death. This is a medical and legal determination. That's why it's not an exact science. There is a subjective aspect to this. It is very important to wait until the FBI completes the entirety of the investigation so all of the pieces of this puzzle can be looked at in its entirety. And then I think we may get a more complete picture. Dr. Baden certainly raises questions that are worth further examination, but we need to wait because there could be things like life insurance issues or the possibility of a civil lawsuit against the Bureau of Prisons moving forward, and this may be the opening salvo in the family's efforts to address those legal matters.
Dr. Wecht, maybe one last just quick question to you. Like, what other investigation could be done from your perspective, or is it finished?
The investigation should have commenced when the body was found, and it should have been left untouched, is my understanding. The body was removed. The ligature around his neck was cut. The feds do their own thing. No respect for regard for the procedures in New York City under the medical examiner's office. That was done. And then don't forget the fact that you got all these other things, a prisoner who is a cellmate, a suicide watch, which is removed, non-functioning cameras. My God, how many circumstances can there be before you begin to raise a flag?
I see your point, indeed. Philip Holloway, Cameron Lindsay, and Dr. Wecht, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.